I'm here with my good friend Todd Caponi, and we're talking about using LinkedIn to build a sales relationship. And so, Todd, tell us a little bit about your background and your career, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a sales nerd, a longtime nerd. I was a decent sales rep for a number of years. And then I found this whole rallying point around neuroscience and decision science, and realized that neuroscientists have found out so much about how we as human beings make decisions that has yet to make it into the rest of the world, the business world, the sales world. And so in my last role, and I'll go on a little bit of a rant here, Matt, because I think it'll help everybody understand. My last role, I was what's called the Chief Revenue Officer of a technology company in Chicago called Power Reviews. And essentially, here's what happened. I was, as the CRO, we had brought in Northwestern University to do a study around how consumers act when a website is acting as a salesperson. So like you're going to buy something online. You're at crocs.com or Vineyard Vines or Jet or whatever, and you're buying something. And what they found was, first of all, we all look at reviews now. So no big surprise there. It was 96% of us look at reviews. But the thing that literally changed my life is 82% of us skip past the perfect reviews and go right to the negatives. So we look at the 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s first. And when a review score on a product on a website is between a 4.2 and a 4.5, those products actually sell better than a product with any other review score, including a 5. And so I'm looking at that, I'm like, all right, a website acting as the salesperson, a 4.2 sells better than a 5. Does that actually equate to human sales? Like, is that just how we're wired? And so I went down this research path and found out that it is exactly the case, that we are actually wired to try to predict our experience. And when a salesperson presents their stuff as being perfect, a perfect 5.0, it actually drives people away. And when you lead with flaws and you present yourself as a 4.2 to a 4.5, or present what you're selling as a 4.2 to a 4.5, it actually drives engagement, drives trust, and increases the odds that you're actually going to make a sale. And so I started screwing around with it when, as a chief revenue officer, I had 60 people on my team, but we started leading with, hey, this is what we're not good at. This is what might not fit in your environment, but here's why we're here and why we think it's potentially a good fit, but it's up to you. We saw sales cycles speed up, win rates speed up. We were working deals we should be winning. We were losing deals faster. Like if you're going to lose, you'd rather lose fast than spend a bunch of time on it. And we were making it really hard on our competitors to compete against us. And it was like freaking magic to the point where there was so much goodness around it that I decided to quit my job and write a book, which I know is insane, but I did. And the rest is history. So that's now I'm on the speaking tour, but doing a lot of workshops and then just trying to help people through this madness.
So when I heard you talk about the perfect, did you have a question, Eric?
Oh, no, I did not. Sorry.
Okay. So when I heard you say this about a month ago, and I was looking at my own Amazon book, I had a lady named Olga that gave me a 1. Couldn't substantiate it, but she gave me a 1 the rest of the 4.5s. So it's kind of in that sweet zone of 4.2 to 4.5. And so what you're saying is consumers are looking for something that's not perfect. They don't expect perfect. And honestly, if the customer expects perfect, they're not a good customer either, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, part of it is if all we get is perfect speak, we're wired to know that perfect doesn't exist. And that's so it's funny. So there was an author I was talking to that had a book out, and he had nothing but 5-star reviews. And then he gets a 1-star review. And it's funny, just like yours, the 1-star review, he read it to me. And it was like, this toaster sucks. The cord is not long enough to where I need it in the kitchen. It turns out the review was about a toaster, not about his book, but it brought down his whole review score. And he was so angry about it. But if you look at the neuroscience around it, that crazy 1-star review actually lends credibility to all the 5s. So the 5s must be real because there's a 1 in here too. And it's like with anything, we're wired to want to read the reviews because it builds trust. But when we see a negative one, we know whether it applies to us or not. It's like you're going to go pick a restaurant, and you go and you see that somebody wrote a review that the service sucked, that they went at a Friday night at 7 o'clock and there were so many people there and the food took forever to come out and it was cold. You think to yourself, well, I'm not going on a Friday night at 7. I'm going on a Wednesday at 5. That service won't apply to me. It'll be better. Is the food good? So that's the way we're wired. And so when you take it to a human-to-human selling environment, when all we do is go, we're perfect, we're awesome, and did I mention how awesome we are? Salespeople or human beings are just like, you're full of crap. Like, help me predict what my experience is going to be like. Why might this not work? And when we do, that's what drives up the trust and the engagement and speeds decision making.
And so that's what we're going to talk about today is trust, especially trust with people within LinkedIn, because we're having people that are trying to build trust as they build relationships as they leave the military. So what would you tell people as far as trust? What are some key factors for trust?
Oh, wow. I mean, there's so much, but I think that one of the things that I encourage people to do, so if you're leaving the military, and let's say you're looking for a job, this literally just happened 10 days ago. I've got to tell this story because I'm actually a little proud of it, the way it worked out, but I think it might be applicable to everybody. There was a guy that called me and said, Todd, I'm looking for a job. And I'm a finalist for a role, but the other finalists have more experience than me. And as a matter of fact, on the job description, it says it requires 5 years of experience in this vertical or this industry. And he's like, I don't have any. And I'm like, well, why are they still talking to you? And he said, well, they like my general sales experience. They like my background. They like my sports background. But I just don't have the experience, but they brought me in. And so what I told them to do was to lead with it. So when the interview starts, don't pretend like, hey, let's hope that doesn't come up again. Let's lead with it. And so what I advised them to do is go into the interview, and this was 2 Thursdays ago, go into the interview and start with, hey, before we start, can we talk about basically the elephant in the room? But let's talk about this this idea that your job description says you require 5 years of experience in this vertical, and I don't have any. And I appreciate you're spending the time with me here. So there must be something great about me. But can we vet that first? Because if that's going to be the decision criteria, I'd like to understand it. I'm sure you would too. And maybe we could save each other a lot of time. Well, he nailed it. And so they ended up having that conversation. He addressed it. And then that Friday afternoon, he got the offer. And on Saturday morning, he took it. And again, that was against 5 people that had more experience than him. It's this idea of leading with it that, it showed that, it just built trust immediately. And I think with each of you, when you think about whether you're selling yourself or selling something, that understanding what this individual might not like or that might not meet their criteria, address that first and then lead to the good instead of starting with, hey, this is why I'm awesome. And what you do is you disarm that resistance to being sold to. You address the elephant, and then everything good that you have to share is going to slide right into their brain and help aid them in their feeling decision that they're going to make for you.
So does anybody in the audience have any questions? If so, please step up. We're here to answer your questions.
Yeah, and you can put them in the chat too if you want, whatever's easier, if you don't feel like interrupting.
I'm looking at both, okay? So what you're saying, and this is really important for military guys because they're going to go into a room where they may not have the attributes or the experience in the corporate world, but they have all the other variables. So address those variables and address those discrepancies that you may have. Is that what you're saying, my friend?
Yeah, embrace transparency, right? Now, I'm not telling you to take it too far. Like, I'm not saying that you should start by, hey, this is why I suck. But like, that's not it. It's like when you think about your pros and your cons, I always advocate for leading with the pros, lead with the things that if you were on the other side of the table that you might be worried about, and vet those first, because that's what builds trust. And then when you do lead to why you're awesome, that will resonate more if you've led with the cons first instead of starting with it. And that's a total neuroscience, behavioral science thing, but I'm telling you, it's like magic. And every time that I've tried it or given that advice that's been executed well, the results have been amazing. And it's not a trick. It's literally the way you build trust. And it's the way that you would appreciate somebody presenting to you as well.
So that's kind of like one of my key things that I dislike about LinkedIn is the number of people that have written to me and said, "Dear Matt, we're concerned about the coronavirus. We hope you're well." It's like, yeah, I'm not really sensing a lot of trust there.
Yeah, I mean, hollow empathy is crap, right? And it's if you haven't built any relationship, it really doesn't resonate very well. So yeah, I'm with you there.
Okay. And then of course, I hear some noise in the background. Who's that?
That's me. I'll go on.
There you go. Okay. So I'm hearing a lot of, I'm seeing a lot of people think of LinkedIn as a sales machine. Do you remember the fax machine about 20 years ago?
Yeah.
and you would you'd put your card into that bowl right there, and all of a sudden you're getting offers from people you don't know. So what I would like to know, and what I think we would want to talk about, is how do we build trust online in interactive forums? What do you suggest, Todd? I mean, I have a lot of ideas, and I've helped a lot of people. I want to talk to an expert like you first. What do you think?
I mean, I believe that, to your point about the hollow empathy and all that. Yeah, I was going through some of my LinkedIn requests lately too, because you were doing that and I thought it was hilarious. So I can't wait to see some of the ones that you picked out. But like the messages that start with, I was checking to, I hope everything is going well, or I haven't heard back from you in a while. That's selfish reach outs, meaning I believe that the best way to engage on LinkedIn or really any platform, even if it's email, is to always start with the person that you're trying to reach out to and be a giver. And what I mean by that is there something that you can give that's going to make them smarter about their jobs, make them better at their jobs, give them some data points, something, just be a giver. It's, the analogy is you would never go to the bank and make a withdrawal if you hadn't first made a deposit. And that's what LinkedIn to me, or most of these things, is just a common drumbeat of people trying to make a withdrawal from me without ever making any kind of deposit. And that's backwards. And so by being a giver, like what's worked is, when I was running a sales organization, having somebody send me a salary study of what sales reps in my area were making, or a deck that I could use to build my board presentation, or just different things that they're giving me that became tools or resources that I appreciated, that maybe don't have much to do with what they do, but it shows that you have sent me something personalized, like you get me, like me, and it's valuable. And with those deposits, when you're ready to make the withdrawal, it's more likely to be available versus trying to make the withdrawal first. So I mean, that's kind of the core concept. Think like a bank. You can't make a withdrawal until you've made a deposit. And so think about the relationships that you're trying to build as with LinkedIn as opportunities to make deposits into a bank account that eventually, when you go to withdrawal, it'll be a lot easier.
So I think the thing of it is, I'm looking at our two guests here, and I'm going to pick on you, Derek, for just a second. Or I'm going to select you, Derek. Here you are, you're 17 years out. Now you're trying to reach out to people that can advise you on possibilities within your desired career field. How do you make deposits with people if you're talking with them for the first time, or you're connecting with them? What would you recommend, Todd?
Well, I mean, Derek, you're selling yourself, right? So at this point?
Yes.
Okay. And why don't, I mean, if Matt, if you don't mind us going on a little tangent, I'd love to help them out.
Let's do it.
Yeah, dude. So, so tell me a little bit about what you're looking to get into.
So the 17 years in the military, suffered an unfortunate accident that's going to stop me from continuing military service on to 20. So I have to actually I haven't had a lot of time to do transition. They're gonna, I'll have to be getting out here in like September. Being an intelligence analyst, I think that I could, go on to work contracting or government in that field. And I've done that a long time. Passion's still there to do it. I just never had the opportunity to explore anything else. And like I was telling Matt earlier, I'm kind of open to all opportunities. I've looked at organizations like USAA and Amazon. I've seen that, they have military friendly hiring programs, and definitely got connected into those. And really the biggest thing that the withdrawal that I'm trying to take from LinkedIn right now is knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Folks with shared experiences that have done this. And anytime I've talked to somebody, the biggest takeaway that I get is information. I learn something new every day on LinkedIn. Every webinar that I've attended, I learned something new. And I've actually posed this question multiple times. How do I feel that when I say thank you for, helping me out. Thank you for the sharing this post. Thank you for this. It feels kind of like a canned response. And how can I let those individuals know, that the information they provide has helped me, and it's greatly appreciated. And I just feel like saying the same thing over and over again, maybe in different ways, it still seems canned at times, kind of like one of those buttons you click at the bottom of LinkedIn where it has congrats or
Yep.
a smiley face.
Happy birthday.
Feels like that. You're right.
Yeah.
Happy work anniversary. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you just take an extra moment and explain what you learned, like what really stood out to you, like that for me is that those are the connections where, like, if I do a webinar or something and somebody says, Todd, that was great, like, cool. Or if they say, Todd, what you said about a 4.2 to a 4.5 being better than a 5 in terms of sales really made me rethink the way that I position things. I'm like, wow, like that's awesome, right? So if you can just get down to a level, like what was it that really stood out that you learned? Like what was the number one thing? I think that would really create that connection and maybe create a conversation that may help. So that's number one. Number two, going back to your background and everything, one of the things that I always encourage people to do is to go, all right, when you wake up in the morning, what is it about what you've been doing that you love the best, right? So, if you're an intelligence analyst, you know a lot, dude. Like, so much more than you think you know. Like that's one of the things that I see in people that are going into, from one sector to another where they think that they have to start over. But the military has taught you so much more than you think you maybe know. And I'm wondering if there's ways that you can, I don't know, Matt, if you've talked to anybody about this, but I'm a believer in.
For you to, I'm gonna add to what you're saying. But please.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I'm an advocate for brand building. Like, write a post about, something unique about what you've learned about intelligence. Or, I mean, I think that just, for me, who a civilian who's never experienced that before, that would be super interesting to me. And maybe pull people in and start to create a brand around yourself as an expert in this. And then that when you actually go and somebody's looking at your LinkedIn profile as a potential candidate and they see a bunch of interaction about some blog posts and you've written in an intelligent way and taught people, I think that just creates, makes you a magnet instead of somebody has to go, instead of going out for it, maybe you can create a little bit of a pull just using what's in your head.
And here's what I want to add to this, and to that point is, like, you hear something, you write that note that Todd says, but then you stay connected with them, and then when they post something like on LinkedIn, you take the time to not just like it, but to comment on it and then tie it back to what they taught you the first time. Because I can tell you, when I saw that post, it's like, yeah, I remember Derek Reynolds. I remember the conversation we had, and you're kind of like keeping top of mind, kind of in my mind, because I do have a few people that that reach out to me, but the ones that really stand out are the ones that say, hey, thank you so much for showing me how to do this. I really appreciate that. Then maybe about a month from now, I post something on an event or something, and people like you comment or you share with others. Believe me, people will pay attention to those kind of efforts. I like what Todd says is the deposit. Now you're making a deposit in my bank going, yeah, what can I do to help my friend Derek?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. I've got, with all the stuff that I share, there are a certain number of people that stand out as being people that I remember because they've learned something specifically and engaged and been specific about their reach outs. And like, I just can't help but want to help them back. Like, keep helping them. That feels good. So I think there's an opportunity there.
Yeah, it's the mindset that I see a lot of times with military guys, and I've talked to a lot of military guys, as Todd will attest, and it's like, oh shucks, that's nothing. Well, let me help you understand that what you did is something significant. It takes time and it takes talking to people outside your normal chains of command, normal channels, to find those attributes that'll make you successful in your military career. So,
yeah, and I'll make one other point. So with my business, I left being an executive to write a book, right? And now I speak and I teach. I don't actually sell anymore. Like, I don't feel like I do any selling. What I'm doing is sharing expertise and going and just being a giver, like being here, right? Like, I just want to give and help you guys out, right? And what I find is the more of that I do, so instead of selling, I'm building credibility and by being a giver. And it comes back to you. You create a magnet for yourself that way. Like, it's just like anything else. If somebody's trying out for a team and they sit out front and tell you how awesome they are, you're just like, all right. But then when they get on the field and they show it, you're like, all right, that dude is good. And that's kind of what we're advocating here for, right? Is prove it, build up your credibility, show your knowledge, and create engagement and be a good person. And it comes back to you almost more than being outbound selling yourself. And that's just my opinion. I guess it's worked for me, but I think that it's just a bit of a counterintuitive mind shift.
And I would say, I agree with you, Todd, that is counterintuitive, but it's like, I think what happens is a lot of people look at social media as a forum to be selling things when it's more about sharing information and to
and building relationships too.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I get these kind of texts like this. I have some swampland in Central Florida. Or, COVID-19 is the new one, but I just thought everybody knows the swampland. So elements. Oh, good.
For elephants. Yep.
Yeah. You define your purpose for connecting, and they have a tie back to something on the other person's profile. So
yeah,
I'm going to give you some hope. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I think that the two things that I always say are personalized and valuable. Like if I look at a LinkedIn reach out, subconsciously, but actually now it's consciously because I'm a nerd, but subconsciously, I look at LinkedIn reach outs and I know whether or not that message could only be sent to me. And Derek, that's part of the comment about the comments you would make around something that you learned, that if I read something and I know that could only be sent to me, it jumps up. And so, when you share a learning and say, this is specifically what I learned from you, that jumps out. And I think the same thing with these connection requests. Just like, Todd, I'm connecting with you because I heard you on this podcast and you talked about this, and I can't wait to learn more. I'm like, oh, like burst into tears. That's perfect, right? I think that's and that's, when Matt talks about the tie back to something on the other person's profile, it could be a podcast or an article or something that they've done, but it all comes down to quality versus quantity, right? Just spend an extra minute, go through their profile, and then figure out what talked to you, what resonated with you, and make that part of your reach out. And man, those things those jump up really, really quickly.
Thank you.
So here's one of my notes that I got from Erica, and few common connections, right? But wait, it gets better. But let me show you a really good one to tie back to what we were just saying.
Mm-hmm.
They tied it back to an article, they said it was interesting, and this is why they'd like to add that person to my professional network. So that was really, it's not hollow, and it's saying, hey, I noticed that you did this and it helped my life. Okay.
I hope that this wasn't to you though, because it says to Sarah.
I know, I've just pulled out these really good ones.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. And then this one, and then here's Erica again. Okay. I didn't really jump at her request to connect.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm getting this secret group, right? Small business growth basics.
Yeah. And I noticed you didn't get a chance to respond to my last message. Hey, Erica, thanks for the reminder why I didn't open the last one. Like those are the craziest starts of all time. Those drive me crazy.
So this typifies this, and this is not what you want to do, Derek, and the rest of the people that are watching this, okay? So we've just wrapped up just a really basic concept of sales. You know, as you build your Rolodex, virtual Rolodex of connections, stay in touch, stay purposeful, stay connected. What else would you like to add to this, Mr. Caponi? Other than we're going to know that the Chicago Bears are going to win the Super Bowl this year, right?
Well, I hope there's football. My gosh, I'm like, it's driving me crazy. And the Bears are likely not going to win the Super Bowl, but I appreciate the thought. No, I think that, again, make all of your outreaches less about you. So get rid of the I's and we's. Make it about the individual you're reaching out to. Personalized, valuable, be a giver. You just think about those three things. Every interaction, personalized, valuable, be a giver. You're going to win. You're going to build relationships. And then, Derek, and for everybody else, I think LinkedIn provides just an incredible opportunity to share your knowledge and build credibility. And even if you write a post and put it out there and nobody sees it, somebody will see it. The right person will see it at some point when they look at your profile and see what you've interacted with. And it's an opportunity to build credibility and show that you're a knowledgeable individual. And I think everybody knows more than they think they do. Just share that knowledge and you'll build a brand for yourself. And the next thing you know, you'll hopefully be swatting away offers as you, transition out. So that's that. And then, the Bears have some quarterback issues that they're going to have to deal with. We got to work on that.
Yeah, that's true. So, Todd, thank you so much for joining us during a busy week for you. I'm very grateful to have you. I'm going to set this up as a YouTube video in a day or two. So if people want to see it, they can. The information you gave was stellar. I think a lot of people don't really understand the sales aspect of even transition. And so on behalf of everybody that I work with and everybody that's going to see this, thank you for taking time to help us.
And on LinkedIn, if any of you, like Derek, anybody want to connect with me and you've got more questions, I'm happy to help anytime. I appreciate what you guys do, and I want to be an asset to you as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, guys. And from rainy San Antonio, this is Matt Scher with the Career Ladders program. Thank you so much, and good afternoon.